We're live. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Mats Guskema. I'm Head of Business Strategy at E-Residency, and it's my pleasure today to welcome a good partner of our organization of ours, Startup Estonia, who is basically the umbrella organization of Estonia's startup ecosystem and has been there for quite some time. We have our main speaker, Liisi Org. Very happy to have you, Liisi, who is Community Development Manager at Startup Estonia, and I believe your background with startups goes back quite some time, actually. I think you started with EdTech in New York, and then you also worked for Scoro, a business intelligence startup in Estonia, and later on, of course, within Ecosystem. We also have Merilin Lukk today, who is Startup Visa project lead. So she knows everything about if non-EU people need to come to Estonia as founders or employees of startups. So she'll be there to answer all questions on this. And I will be here also for the E-Residency side to give you any responses on how you can use E-Residency to found your startup without even perhaps coming to Estonia. So thanks a lot. Liisi, I give you the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you much. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the startup ecosystem in Estonia. And I actually also have the slides for you, so it's easier maybe to see. I'm gonna share my screen. Yeah. So I hope you see it. So I am Liisi. I'm Startup Community Development Manager in Startup Estonia. And if some of you don't know what Startup Estonia is, it is a really great organization, a government initiative under the Ministry of Economics and Communications. So our main goal is to help and nurture the startup ecosystem in Estonia. And we actually had this one goal as well, still have it, to have 1,000 startups by the end of 2020. And I'm gonna let you know soon how far are we with that. But yeah, as you can see from this slide as well, that what we do in terms of nurturing the ecosystem and having this collaborative ecosystem is to really help and be their legislative environment, having it, you know, a good place, but also getting funding accessible for startups and so on. Yeah, so a bit about the statistics as well. So as I said, we have had this goal to have 1,000 startups. We're there now because we launched a database, which I'm gonna tell you a bit later as well. And we have, at this point today, just checked 1,022 startups in our database, which is really good because why we are looking at those numbers is because startups really generate the value to Estonian ecosystem and the economy. You know, the tax money and employer taxes, of course, and then the jobs created as well, right? So here you can see that last year the startups created 6,300 new jobs. Also from startup founders, we can see that 30% are foreigners and 50% are women, which is really good statistics. Yeah, and also we could see from last year's that the startup sector is growing 30% a year. And the startups have raised over 1.6 billion euros in the last 12 years. This is really important for our startup ecosystem because we can see the value all the time. Like Startup Estonia is collecting the data, you know, quarterly, and we are collaborating with other organizations like you know, statistical organization and so on. So we get this information, and we show it to the world that it's really, really necessary to have the startups. Of course, you all know what are the unicorns, and that we have 4 of them in Estonia, which we're really proud of. And you have probably used Skype, everyone. What is important here, I think, is that we have had startups or unicorns in waves. So Skype and Playtech being the first generation unicorns, and TransferWise and Bolt the second generation. And we all agree that the startup ecosystem in Estonia started with Skype, and the Skype founders founding another startups and so on. Also TransferWise generating new startup founders and so on. So yeah, also that makes us the highest or the country with the highest number per capita unicorns. So we're really proud of those unicorns. About the investments, I think here you can see that the startups get investments. They are not here just like that, but as I showed before, the 90% comes from foreign funds and 10% is in Estonia. The number of deals last year was 71, which is pretty high, and the amount of money invested is also 258 million, which is awesome for a small country like Estonia and Estonian startups. Yeah, maybe here I can mention that like the startups who begin their journey get their funding from different countries like Finland, UK, US, but also there are like some of those companies who are really dedicated to some markets. So there are like investments, of course, from Germany and so on. But what me as a startup community development manager I'm proud of is our community, because we have over 100 support organizations for startups, and we have actually divided them into phases. So you can see from our webpage actually that from startup mindset to scale up phase, and by support organizations we mean then mentoring and events, and incubators, accelerators, and co-working communities, but also VC funds and angel networks. So yeah, you can definitely, if you are connected with the startup ecosystem, then you can just go ahead and talk to those organizations and reach out to them, ask if they're a fit for you, and so on. So this is all in our webpage, and yeah, you can find the right fit for sure. Since Estonia is so small, you definitely just maybe need to have maybe 2 or 3 people to get to know somebody you really want. So just ask around and you will find the right people. What is also something what we launched this year in January actually is something we worked for the whole last year to get the new Estonian startup database going. And we did it in January, and that's why we know all the statistics so well right now. And yeah, we have over 1,000 startups there. What is really important is that startups go in themselves through Includer platform and update their information there directly, so they can add all the information they want to have it publicly. Because startup database is not only for the government people or only for, I don't know, us, or just, like random people, but they're also for the investors from abroad, or let's say some other countries who want to invite Estonian startups to their country and so on. So this is important to have your information updated there and show what you do. And also we get the data there about the taxes, the employment taxes, turnover, and so on. So go and check it out from the webpage. How you can be included as Estonian startup. If you have Estonian startup, then there are like some criteria you need to fit, which are that you need to be you need to have a company registered in Estonia, and it should be technology-based company with global growth potential and repeatable, scalable business model, and maximum 10 years old. So those are like the 5 main things. But you can find definitely more information about the database, and we can talk about that later as well in the discussion. But now I'm maybe gonna give my word turn to Merilin, who's gonna talk about the startup visa, which is one of the main services we offer in Startup Estonia as well.
Yes, I'll go over it really quickly because today's topic is not only that. But yes, I have been running the Estonian Startup Visa for 2.5 years now. It was launched in 2017 with the goal to make it easier for Estonian-based startups actually to employ people from outside of the EU, because our immigration kind of procedures and numbers and limits are quite low. So yes, the startup visa is helping startups grow in the pace that they need to. I tried to put the next slide. Lizzie, can you put the next slide, please? So the first step for any company that either wants to bring their employees or relocate from another country outside of the EU, or even inside the EU to Estonia, they have to get the startup status. And we have over 2,000 companies right now who have applied for the startup status, and only 600 companies have received it. So they are both Estonian companies and foreign companies who are either employing people from outside of the EU or coming here. If at one point there's going to be a dog on my screen, then don't worry. I have my pup here. But yes, what is even cooler than the amount of companies that have received the startup status and who are eligible to come to Estonia is that over 2,300 individuals have actually used that. Around 20% of the people who have relocated to Estonia are founders themselves, but mostly it is used for employing people to come to work in Estonian-based startups. Usually we do see that E-Residency does play a huge part in this process of becoming an Estonian-based startup, because E-Residency gives a very good opportunity for people to get acquainted very comfortably with our entrepreneurship ecosystem. And it's always good when companies kind of become more very familiar before they relocate here, and no other country is offering that. And I think that is also one of the reasons why the Estonian startup visa is so successful. And it's safe to say when we look at numbers, it's one of the most successful ones in the world. I tried it again, Lizzie. So what does it give you if you're a company who is coming from outside of the EU? Definitely the access to EU markets is probably the main thing. However, if you are already based in the EU, we've also seen some companies from the EU relocating to Estonia because maybe their founder is from a country that isn't in the EU. and it's easy for them to still be a EU-based company, but based in Estonia and bringing in people, very talented people from outside of the EU to Estonia and to the EU. And also it's a very good way to employ people. But also Estonia is a very small country, but we see it as our biggest strength because we have such a tight-knit startup community, and also we have those close connections to mentors, advisors, VC, and also through Startup Estonia to the government. So it's safe to say that it's really, really easy to influence the legislation or kind of the processes that are being put to place. And now I think it's my next slide. Yes, I just wanted, this is only one person who has started with an E-Residency, kind of built their company in their home country, which for Edilson was Brazil. He is working on a blockchain-based startup that allows basically forming contracts and signing papers without a notary, and on easier terms, basically democratizing it. And yeah, he actually did do a matrix listing all of the factors that affected his decision to relocate. And yeah, now he has been in Estonia for almost 2 years, I think. And he has been also UN has kind of what's the word, kind of said that what he's doing is really, really necessary and very good for very good globally. And he has said that yes, coming to Estonia and these options that has been offered to him because of that have made it possible for his company to grow at a very fast pace. If you have any questions about the requirements, I'm sure we can go through these later on. But also you can check startupestonia.ee/visa, where you have all of the requirements and everything. And maybe in the future we'll have a startup visa seminar as well, where you can all ask your questions. But thank you.
So thank you, Marilyn. Actually, yeah, I already kind of went over the database question, or like how you can be involved in our database. Is that you need to have a startup before and have it registered in Estonia. But maybe might you want to kind of talk about that too?
Absolutely. Our core message is that we don't differentiate. I mean, you can be an e-resident who set up a company in Estonia and actually sit in Brazil or somewhere else. Your startup is still an Estonian startup as any other, technically. So that's I think the core message, and not many countries really allow that or enable that. So that's there. But briefly, I also wanted to go over how the process works of becoming an e-resident and starting a company. I know many of you are accustomed to it, but I'll just very briefly jump over it. So first you go to our E-Residency website, you apply online, you fill some questions, and essentially, and you pay €120 fee. And then you would go to an Estonian embassy or another center where you receive basically your digital ID card. After that, you can find a service provider from our website, which is basically an organization that can give you like a contact person and address in Estonia. So this person doesn't have any power over your company, but basically has like a legal role in the Estonian system, so you can register it. You can see that the average sort of cost, the monthly cost that is there. And they also can offer you bookkeeping and other services. Then you can register a company, and then you need to find either fintech company that's most popular with e-residents, such as TransferWise or Payoneer or Paysera. There are a number on our websites. Or some companies also prefer a traditional bank account. That's the only thing that people still need to turn up in Estonia once. So that is there's one banking partner that we definitely advise more. And then you're set. Then you have your company there. and then you can start registering it as a startup. And what I didn't mention actually early on is that E-Residency, I mean, we also considered us a little bit of a startup initially because the idea was born out of a hackathon. But now that we've grown, we have about 68,000 e-residents, 13,000 companies, and I think the overall revenue of these companies has been more than 1 billion euros already. So now we consider ourselves sort of graduated from the more traditional role already. But yeah, we look forward to interesting questions and a good debate. Please ask away anything that comes to your mind. Thank you so much.
Exactly. So I'm now gonna stop sharing and can go into the discussion mode.
So
are there any questions coming up? I see that in the
Q&A there's two.
Yeah, first of all, you will get a link later on, so where you can see that presentation, absolutely.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay. I have plans to start a digital marketing agency in Estonia to get clients in Europe. That's a good idea. Yes, of course it's a good idea. It's not a startup. I would say that because in Estonia, we have defined a startup as a technology-based business that has a product, not a service provider, because it's not scalable, and scalability is a big thing here. We actually assess it if it's scalable or not. If it's not, it's just a regular company, which is also very good. But I think E-Residency is a good way to start with that, to bring your company to Estonia.
Yeah, actually, I would add that there are many digital marketing people who choose to actually do the company through E-Residency because they're not tied to one place. They can work out of anywhere, and that's where E-Residency helps.
Is there any payment gateways provided for the Fintech startups? Much?
Payment gateways. I don't really maybe understand the question, but when we talk about are startups any different than regular companies, then no, because we consider all the companies kind of the same, just startups are with a different business model.
Yeah, I would advise you to have a look at the E-Residency marketplace because there are a number of that we have there. So. And also, once you have a company done, or you have found like a service provider to help you and advise you, then you can really go through your business model specifically, and they will advise you which payment gateways might work best with your clients, and considering the geographies and things that you're interested in.
No pickup locations in Latin America. Unfortunately,
we will have a pickup location in Sao Paulo, but this probably will not happen before early 2021. So yeah, it's not up to us, but it's also other government agencies that are working to make that possible.
Can a startup company bring employees from the home country to work for? Yes. If your company has received the startup status, which is the first step, then the company is eligible to bring in founders or employees from any country in the world.
Is there any government funding to help companies transfer to Estonia? It's a really good question. The government doesn't give funding directly to startups, but we do it through the VC funds. So we're supporting the rise of new VC funds, I would say, but basically there is no Startup Estonia directly giving the funding to startup, but there are different VC funds in Estonia and you can find the seed money definitely. Or I don't know if I can say definitely, it really depends on your startup.
I would say that if you're a good and promising startup, then there is a lot of funds available. Of course, in this situation, the investors are, not even kind of, they just think through it more than maybe in a non-crisis situation. But yes, we have heard a lot of the times that we have a lot of funding money, but not enough startups. So you can do whatever you want with that information. But yes, it's always Estonia or the government, we kind of see that we don't want to give money directly to startups. We want to give the money to actual organizations who will give that money to startups, because they know better what to do with that money and who to give it to. Yeah. We have to physically travel to Estonia for opening personal and business bank accounts. Can we send a manager to look after a company opened through E-Residency?
Yeah, physical bank accounts, you still need to travel to Estonia if you want a very traditional bank account, basically. We only have one partner that we advise, which is LHV Bank, and they're also on our marketplace.
What would be the advantage of a European citizen to establish an Estonian company? Well, I would say that for a European citizen, e-residency is probably the main thing that they could use. And for any company, whether it's through e-residency or a startup, one of the things is our entrepreneurship kind of culture. Also the fact that our country runs digitally, which in this crisis has proven to be one of the best things for government or for any business, because even if there's a physical government lockdown, you still have government services from your couch, from your computer. And that has proven to be a very, very big thing. And I know that we have been even praised because of it internationally. And of course, all of the strengths may always come out during a crisis. For a startup, as I said, it's very, very kind of concrete. You can, we have a very good startup visa system, and you can hire people globally and get them to Estonia on quite easy terms, as long as you're a startup.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tata, for joining us. Do Estonia have only startup visa plan or some other business investment program? If you're asking about immigration wise, then we have a business, or we do have an entrepreneurship or entrepreneur visa as well for regular businesses. Since in the startup visa requirements, we don't require any funding or any revenue, but the entrepreneurship visa does require 65,000 euros in the company kind of assets. You can Google it, Estonian entrepreneurship visa, and you will get all the requirements. I think that government grants to support startups. I think we answered it. Business income tax for startup in Estonia, the same as for any other company. The tax system is pretty straightforward in Estonia. For any company, we don't have tax incentives for startups. But your income tax is 20%, but you only pay it when you take your money out as dividends or as salaries. So if you keep the money on your bank account, you pay 0 tax.
I see a lot of questions to Marilyn, so.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll just jump in quickly. There was another question about the benefit of being an EU national. And of course, EU nationals can move to Estonia anytime. With current COVID, unfortunately, there's only 5 destinations you can fly from the airport. Hopefully that will normalize soon. But yeah, that's the key advantage.
How long is the process between applying for a startup? So the first step is getting the startup status. That takes around 2 weeks to get the answer from. I would say that the committee is very strict, and the success rate right now is only 22%. but that makes sense because we don't just want all of the companies to come here. We actually want to see them being viable and successful in our ecosystem. Yes. Then when you have the startup status, you are eligible for the visa or the temporary residence permit. The visa is for 1 year and you can extend it for another 6 months. And the temporary residence permit is for 5 years. For the visa, you don't have any extra requirements. You just go to our embassy or come to Estonia and go to Police and Border Guard Board. However, for the temporary residence permit, you have to have a company established in Estonia. And that's where E-Residency is very useful, because if you already have an E-Residency company, you can skip the visa part and get the temporary residence permit at once. And that really makes it easier to open bank accounts, to just kind of get, if you're coming with a family, get kindergarten places or school places and everything. So yes, I think that answered that.
There is a question about double taxation between the United States and Estonia, and Estonia and the US do have a double taxation treaty. But again, you need to look into the details to see how it works precisely.
You mentioned the bank you generally recommend. Which one? I'll type an answer actually. lhv.ee. Send. Ooh, digital nomad visa. Can you tell us about it? Yes, I can. It was accepted and it was supposed to come into force in June or July this year. But since all of the changes in the world, Mats had a little bit more information on it. I think it's going to become a thing next year.
Yeah, we can't promise anything to anyone, but we understand that its implementation will be postponed to next year, but the Parliament will continue working on it.
Mm-hmm. Startups outside Estonia are very welcome to apply to the E-Residency and also to startup visa.
Absolutely. E-Residency is very, very rare that people get denied E-Residency. It's just the government needs to know who you are, needs to establish your identity and that you're not involved in a criminal activity.
There is a plan for proprietorship of 16,000 investment. Please comment. Can anyone comment?
No, I can't. I think the next one is also for Mats, the E-Residency question.
Sorry, I'm lost. You have to tell me. You have to ask me.
I already have the residency card, but cannot take it from Tallinn because stuck in Singapore. Can I prolongate the waiting time?
So yes, you can write to any place that holds your card, or just the foreign ministry in general, and they can keep your card for longer, or you can also change the location. In normal circumstances, changing the location though costs 50 euros. So again, this is something you have to check with the foreign ministry or the respective embassy that holds your card. But in general, what I have to say is that there have been big disruptions with people receiving E-Residency cards. But normally when people do manage to turn up to respective embassies, they do issue cards. Most of our embassies still continue to work. So once the restrictions are eased, it should be easy to get the cards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, right now with embassies, I know that they are not handling visa requests at the moment because of the crisis, but I am very sure that as soon as the things normalize, it will go back to normal.
But founders can apply for residence permit as well directly, right? So founders can still come to Estonia, but it was more difficult than usual.
Yeah. How long does it take from choosing bookkeeping provider to paying registration fee to opening of bank account? I think this is something very individual and case by case thing. Shouldn't take too long because we have service providers who help with that. But yeah, I think this is a question to the service providers listed in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. What is the best way for an existing company to be considered as a startup? You go to startupestonia.ee/visa and you apply for the startup status. But first, read through the page to get all the information. But yes, getting the startup status is the main thing. You can also just read through the FAQ there, and maybe if you still have questions, just write to us.
And in terms of existing company, that you actually need to be fit in those startup criterias, like you need to be technology based and so on. So
scalable with a fast global growth potential, yeah, and less than 10 years old.
I think one thing we didn't go through today actually is what is the average like salaries in Estonia for like startup employees, and also people who maybe employees who brought to Estonia through startup visa, and is it significantly lower than, let's say, West Europe? What's the difference there?
I think, yeah, when you talk about salaries, yes, the general salaries in Estonia or in Eastern Europe in general are definitely lower than in Western Europe, but also the living costs are a lot lower. Actually, in 2018, we conducted a survey in the Estonian startup ecosystem, and we also questioned some people who came from Silicon Valley to live in Estonia, and they said that yes, their salaries were 10 times higher when living in San Francisco, but at the same time, the money that was left on their bank account working in a startup in Estonia was considerably higher in Estonia. So of course the salaries are lower here, but also the living costs are lower, and the living quality might be even better than in some of the very big cities in Western Europe.
And it really depends what you do. Like it really depends. So number wise, we have the data that like the average salary in technology startups is like around 2,300, 400, but it is like with all the roles together, right? So it doesn't go with like some developers. So it really.
So the median salary might be much closer to the 1,400 euros. I think is the average national average salary. So yeah, of course.
I think if we talk about median salaries, then for sure the median salary in startup ecosystem in the startups is considerably higher than the median salary in general in Estonia. Usually the lowest salaries are close to Estonian average salary. Yeah, around that 1,400 that you mentioned. But as we said, the developers payments might be in the thousands sometimes. So yeah, I think we also have data on the specific sectors and everything in our database. Oh my God.
We talk about,
yeah.
And when we talk about the sectors overall, then Estonia right now is the strongest in business, software and HR, but also consumer products and goods and fintech. Those are like by numbers the good sectors.
So
yeah, we had another question about double taxation treaty with Germany. I'd say that we have normally with most EU countries, we do have double taxation treaties. And also you can check there all, if you just Google Estonia and X country double taxation treaty, they will come up. They're all online, easily foundable.
Maybe this one question is good from Nikos. Good evening from Melbourne, Australia. How does the startup community connect and collaborate in a COVID world? Is there an online platform for communication, virtual meetups? So since Estonia is so digital, we of course do a lot of stuff, but also with the startup community, we have a Slack channel where we communicate pretty frequently. And I've done one community meetup with the community organizations, definitely going to do another virtual one. But yeah, we're all the time in connection, and every other, I think, weekend we had a hackathon here in Estonia as well. So that was pretty crazy. I think all the people who organized them were like, just straightforward the whole weekend, developing new startup ideas. So that was pretty awesome. And you also I have to also mention the Global Hack here, which was one of the most successful hackathons in the world, I think. So
yeah,
we have been active in
it had
terms of
12,000 participants and from 100+ countries and 500 ideas that will change the world, hopefully. So yeah, we hope for many more people on your database soon.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing in Estonia, never waste a good crisis, right? And yeah, in a crisis situation, Estonians are very kind of proactive, and we don't sit around to wait for things to get better. We just do it ourselves. But also, I would recommend, if you're interested in the things that are happening in our ecosystem, go to Startup Estonia Facebook page, and under the events, we list all of the events that are happening in our ecosystem. And a lot of these events are online right now, so you have a possibility to join in from wherever, basically, in the world. I think since there are so many questions, we're gonna start selecting because some of them are kind of repeating, I would say.
But I just encourage anyone who has questions for E-Residency or Startup Estonia, just write us later on. You know, you can't get all your answers immediately, but
one good question: how can I get a job in startup companies if I'm residing in Estonia? The first place to go to is workinestonia.ee. They list a lot of the startup jobs on their website, but also just go through our database, find maybe a startup that you like, and just go to their website or contact them, tell them what you're good at. Also, one question that is really good: what is considered a scalable service? Is it a digital studio? Is a digital studio considered scalable? I would say that if it's a service provider just handling giving or selling their service client by client, it's not scalable. However, if you have a product that basically what we consider scalable is a product, for example, a software that you build once, but you can sell multiple times without it putting any more effort into it. So that's what we consider scalable. I hope that answered it.
There's a question about Erica as well. So Erica is an unofficial NGO started by E-Residents, run by E-Residents. And Erica was also supposed to have its E-Residency Festival this May next to our Latitude 59, which is our biggest startup festival normally. So unfortunately, none of them took place, but hopefully it will happen soon enough.
There's a question about a crypto or basically a startup that makes payments in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Is it permitted and will it cause any issues? If you're running a legit company, basically, then it shouldn't cause any issues. It is permitted in Estonia, but we are very strict with the companies that apply for the startup status who are in the cryptocurrency business. So you have to kind of take that into consideration.
There's a question as well: can I get in touch with local startups or other e-residents through E-Residency? Actually, we've been waiting for a long time to actually launch a part on our website where E-Residency companies can talk to each other and really discuss things and business ideas and maybe do business with each other. So we're hoping to launch that soon. So hopefully that will help.
Is educational technology an area of particular interest in the Estonian startup ecosystem? It is. We also in Startup Estonia have 3 focus areas right now, which are edtech, cybertech, and one regional development, Ida-Virumaa. But edtech is definitely one of the things we need more. We have really good education in Estonia, but we need more of those edtech solutions. So definitely part of our interest.
So there are 2 things which are from the same person, Indu. So if the startup is rejected for startup visa, if it's rejected for the startup status, yes, you can reapply. And then do we need to have the beta ready to apply? Yes. An MVP stage is needed at least to get to the assessment phase, and then we just start to see if it's viable enough. Idea stage companies are rejected instantly. So,
is Estonia a good place to start a drop shipping e-commerce company? I would say it is.
I would say also talk to some of the service providers in our marketplace who have experience with that, but there are e-residency companies that have done that.
There's a question about, can you guide us to any startup accelerators in Estonia? What would you recommend, Liisi?
Oh my God, now you can hear my favorite accelerators, right? No, I'm not gonna suggest anything, but it really depends what you're looking for, and you can definitely write me an email and I will help you find the right one for you, because there are pretty many of them which could be suitable.
Yeah, but also just go to the ecosystem website and take a look there. Also, I would recommend everyone who is interested in the Estonian startup ecosystem your first gateway is the Startup Estonia website. Just go through that, and if you don't have an answer to your question, write us.
Yes.
Let's see. As a board member for an Estonian startup, do I get taxed for dividends from preferred stock? So you will always get taxed for dividends. If you want to take money out of your company, you are taxed either if you take it out as dividends, 20%, or if you take it out as salary, it's 20% plus 33% social tax.
But of course, don't have any. It depends on where you reside. What if you have to pay personal income tax as well? Because normally Estonians or people reside in Estonia, they pay on dividends, they pay one-time 20% income tax. Whereas like in some other countries, they're supposed to pay extra income tax on their personal income. And that really depends on where you live.
How much time do we have left? 13 minutes. Maybe we can do it like that everyone just picks up. We do it in a circle, or like kind of you pick one question. I'm probably, I have to say, I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to answer all of the questions, but we'll try to answer as many as you can. Liisi, do you want to pick one? Eriona, where is your question?
Well, there are a lot of like e-residency questions which I can't answer, or I can, but maybe Mats is better.
Yeah, I can quickly jump in. I mean, there's a general question about tax obligations of becoming Estonian resident. And in addition to having a company in e-residency, I mean, then you would just be like a normal Estonian person living in Estonia. There's no differentiation how you be taxed from Estonian perspective. If you're a resident of Estonia, then you're almost the same, well, as a citizen. So there's no extra sort of layers there. Yeah.
So maybe I will take this Danielle question that hello, Startup Estonia is therefore an agency helping just startups involved in the fintech business. Did I get it right? Not really, because Estonia is a governmental initiative. We're like the umbrella organization connecting all the support organizations. So we do help startups find the right organization. But not only like in terms of one sector, we do it throughout all the sectors, I would say. And yeah, like when we get offers from abroad, let's say, then we also share it to the community, to startups, but also community organizations do it between themselves. So what we do basically is we connect people. That's just one word. Like we do a lot of connecting. We do a lot of other stuff too, but like this is one of the main things I do, I would say.
So Luca is a digital e-residence, and the company founded in 2018 provides e-learning services about personal finance. Oh, that's cool. You would like to scale up your business and create a full platform about personal finance. Do you have business partners to suggest to talk with? I would say that we don't, I don't know, I can't name a specific one to you, but I would say that it would be really useful for you to, first of all, start looking into the events that we have on our Facebook page. And also kind of looking into the startup ecosystem site, and you will find your way there, I would say. I hope it answered enough.
I think there's a good question actually for you guys. I mean, what businesses are considered as technology-based companies, I suppose, from a startup perspective?
So they're products or services that use technology to kind of, or yeah, that are using technology to offer it. So usually the startups that we see are usually software as service, but it can also be hardware if it has a software component, because it has to be scalable, and technology-based businesses are most likely to be easily scalable. So yeah, I would say that the first ideas that come to mind are software as service.
Mm-hmm. But then now more than ever, I think the hardware companies are also kind of growing in Estonia, but they need to have something like a original technology there. So that's important. And I know that a lot of countries think startups differently.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Ireland still, I think, thinks that cafeterias or restaurants or like some kind of, shops are startups, or I don't even know, like there's so different definitions to startups, but in Estonia we have defined it, and that's how we kind of act. And I know that in Germany, for example, it is the same, that you need to have a technology-based startup and scalable business model. What else is here? Is Latitude happening in August? Well, like I can't say exactly, but I've heard some rumors that it is still happening in August, but not sure yet. I mean, I can't say anything right now. I know something, but let's see.
They're working hard to make it happen.
Working hard. Exactly. So I miss Latitude already. I really want to attend events already.
Yeah.
How complicated it is to become an Estonian citizen? Are there any age restrictions? Definitely no age restrictions.
But I think you have to do an exam, or get married to an Estonian, I think, or no, you still have to do an exam to get a citizenship. And you, if I'm not mistaken now, you have to live in Estonia consecutively for 7 years. If I'm not mistaken, there's definitely information about it under the Police and Border Guard Board website, but it's not the easiest processes. But yeah, the main thing is that you have to do a citizenship exam and a language exam.
Good question. Is there a way to learn what is needed niche in Europe to fill the gap with a digital product? Well, I encourage you to join hackathons. That's the best way to test out your ideas.
Yeah, and good old market research.
How is the health insurance in Estonia? Can I easily apply if I move to Estonia? Yes, if you pay yourself like a sort of a salary, a base salary, then you automatically get health insurance. Also, Estonia is working on the idea of offering digital nomads, way to collect pensions and health insurance. But there's also some private companies who do a similar thing, of course.
What options for intellectual property protections are available for e-companies? I think this is a very specific question to lawyers. In Estonia, we have quite a few law companies that are dealing with those things. And you can also check the marketplace on E-Residency website for that, I think.
Absolutely, the marketplace is there, but in general, the IPR legislation is, well, it's the same in Europe, but our court system is quite strong in this area, I would say. So it's a place where you can safely keep your IPR. That is the key message I would have.
Wow, we have answered 56 questions, by the way.
Yeah. So.
But to sum up, I mean, what's your sort of key message? Why Estonia? You know, why should someone start a company here?
Because it's so easy. I think that's the thing. You don't have to hassle and you don't have to pay extra to keep your company in existence, which I know in a lot of countries is the case. It's relatively easy to run a company and it's relatively cheap to run a company in Estonia. So you can just focus on revenue and actually building it rather than bureaucracy or finding the money to just pay the corporate tax every month, even if you don't have a revenue. So these are just the small things that kind of make an entrepreneur's life easy.
It's easy, but I would say like maybe even more important is the community, because it is super collaborative. Like you can find the right people, and definitely like if you would meet them, you would understand. Like Estonians are maybe shy at first, but when you get to know them, it's definitely something you won't forget, because this community is definitely like it's very tight because we're a so small country. So yeah, I would say community, and it's easy.
But what's the key feedback you get from, let's say, EU nationals who decide to move here with a startup?
The ones who I've met there, I haven't met many companies that have relocated from EU, but some of the companies that have done it, for example, one of them is from Italy, and the co-founder is from Kazakhstan, and they're doing a space tech startup, and yeah, so they came to the European Space Agency accelerator. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the fact that we have the startup visa made it really easy for the person from Kazakhstan to also come here and start working on it. Of course, there are always hassles when you relocate. In Estonia, we do have a lot of different levels of those service providers who help you, whether you're a really small startup or already an established startup, so you can get the help needed. And there are different price levels as well, because you know, not all startups can have the money to pay for a relocation service provider thousands of euros, but you can have, you're still available to get or eligible to get the help. So I think, yeah, that kind of goes back to the community that was mentioned. And also, once you're here and you just ask for help, you talk to people, you will get the help.
Easy, you were saying something, sorry.
No, I wasn't. I'm just thinking that so many people ask that question, if we also host the delegations who are coming to Estonia, that why Estonia, why Estonia, and why should I bring my company here? Well, you don't really like, I can't say anything, because you have to come and see yourself, or talk to Estonians, or talk to the organizations, not only Estonians. It is a very international community already. So So yeah, like you need to see yourself, but it is one very big advantage that everything is digital and you can do your stuff really quickly. And I think that's one of the biggest ones. For non-EU companies, I would say it's definitely the access to EU markets and also the access to talent through the visa. So there are many, many perks doing your company in Estonia.
And also when it comes to living here, it's safe. That we can't say about a lot of the countries where we have people coming from. The education system is good for families. It's a very good place to live. If you love nature, you can go from the middle of Tallinn to a forest on a camping trail within like 30 minutes with a train, which, for example, I have a friend from Brazil who said that that doesn't happen in Rio or Sao Paulo. It just, these are the things that Estonians take so for granted. But when people come to live here, these are really, it gives you, it's such a good quality of life here. So of course the weather isn't perfect. That's kind of the minus one.
It's also true, Estonian, that we do mention the negative side as well. But I think the key message from the E-Residency, of course, is that you don't have to move here, but please do create your startup here, and then you can think later whether to move or not. But I don't see, we've gone over time a bit, but thank you so much, Lizzie and Madeline. We will have you back after the borders will open. We'll organize another webinar and we'll talk more about the relocation and startup visa and all the opportunities. But thank you so much, and everyone listening also, thank you. And please write us if you have any questions.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.